Good afternoon. I am calling to order the June 15th. Oh, good afternoon. I will call to order the June 15th, 2023 meeting of the Santa Barbara County Air Pollution Control District Board of Supervisors. Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Thank you, Chair Patino. Director Williams,
Here.
Director Hartman,
Here.
Director King,
Here.
Director Clark, Director Parodi. Director Parodi, are you there? Director Rouse,
Here.
Director Capps,
Here.
Director Nelson,
Here.
Director Lavanino,
Here.
Director Hernandez,
Here.
Director Cordova,
Here.
Director Infante,
Here.
and Chair Patino.
Here.
We have a quorum.
At this time, Mayor Infante, can you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Yes. The hand of your heart, if you would, after me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. First order of business is the approval of the minutes of the May 18th, 2023 meeting.
Make a motion to move the minutes.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second, King.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? If not, Madam Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Director Williams,
Aye.
Director Hartman,
Aye.
Director King,
Aye.
Director Rouse,
Aye.
Director Capps,
Aye.
Director Nelson,
Aye.
Director Lavanino,
Aye.
Director Hernandez,
Aye.
Director Cordova,
Aye.
Director Infante,
Aye.
and Chair Patino.
And I will abstain. I was not here at the last meeting.
The motion passes
Thank you.
10-1.
The next item is the approval of the administrative items. Does any board member wish to pull any of these items?
I'd like to pull D3, please.
D3? Anyone else? Okay. Madam Clerk, could you read D3, please?
Just one quick clarifying question. Will this vote require a separate vote?
No.
No. Okay.
Just question.
Administrative item D3, notice of violation report. Receive and file the summary of notices of violation issued and penalty revenue received during the month of May 2023.
I'm just curious, like there was maybe 100 of them that failed to file an annual report of the 2022. Is that normal and how do they know? I mean, I saw the counties on there, cities on there, bunch of small businesses. How did they?
Want to hear about our process?
Yeah, how do we follow the
Okay.
process or
Well,
don't follow?
we have a pretty thorough process, and it's actually been improved over the last 3 or 4 years with the use of interns. We have a requirement that all of the sources, that's over 1,000 sources, are required to submit an annual report by March 1st. And what we've been doing is we've been reminding them, sending out annual report reminders to the permitted facilities. We actually did it 3 times before the March 1st deadline. We did it in December, January, and February. There were 89 NOVs issues associated with lack of submitting. And if you compare that to other years, starting in 2018, we had 178 NOVs. So we're seeing improvement, but it's just more communication, more assistance provided to those sources to ensure that they get that information to us in a timely way. Since we did submit the NOVs, we actually have received a lot of those annual reports
Okay.
since then.
And is there any financial penalty or anything if they get the NOV or is it just to cure it?
It's a financial penalty as well, trying to encourage timely submittal of this information. And it depends on if they exceeded the due date 1 year, is this the
Right.
first time, or multiple years? And that will be shown in subsequent NOV reports.
Got it. Thank you.
Madam Chair. To follow up on what Steve's talking about, what is the enforcement mechanism? I mean, are you taking these people to court if they fail? Because most of these in there are just fail to submit, fail to submit, fail to submit. So what's the mechanism by which you are enforcing that?
Well, the NOV is an enforcement tool. It's a violation that's issued. And then we work with all of those sources to ensure that they have the information they need to collect. It's part of their permit condition. We submit a form so they can easily provide that information back to us. We work with them if they have any questions or are uncertain as far as how to collect that data. And then once they submit the data to us, then we settle the NOV.
So what if they just say, I'm not paying it?
If they don't pay, as far as they don't agree to have a settlement with the air district, we have a couple other opportunities to pursue for enforcement. And this applies to all NOVs that we aren't able to have settlements secured with the source. We always have an abatement order that would go through our hearing board, or we can also refer unsettled NOV settlements to the district attorney's office. Or we could even pursue our own litigation, but we try not to go down that path. So we very rarely do we have any case where we can't settle.
Any further discussion from the board?
Chair Patino,
Yes.
just one additional question or?
Yes, board member Nelson.
Yeah, thank you. I see on here there has team operating, which many people in the public probably know is the successor to the Greca oil facilities, and have been a chronic appearances on this list quite some time. My understanding is there's been potentially some changes there or new ownership, and that's by are you aware of it?
Yes,
a
we are
change there?
aware of the change of ownership.
So there's a new operator there that's gonna be taking over those leases.
Mhm.
PCEC, which
Correct.
often doesn't show up on these lists
Right.
at all. So I think it's good news for the agency and for the county moving forward on these lists.
Yeah, and one thing we've been trying to do, Director Nelson, is to work with team operating on those violations that have been brought back into compliance, so we can try to close those out with team operating before it's transferred over to PCEC.
Any other discussion or questions? Any public comment on this item?
Chair Patino, we did not receive any public comment on any of these items.
Thank you. Can I get a motion in a second?
I'll move the administrative agenda.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. On the administrative agenda, will the clerk please call roll?
Director Williams,
Aye.
Director Hartman,
Aye.
Director King,
Aye.
and I know Director Parodi just arrived. We are voting on the administrative agenda. Director Parodi, are you in Santa Barbara? Aye. Thank you.
Aye.
Director Rouse,
Aye.
Director Caps,
Aye.
Director Nelson.
Aye.
Director Lavanino.
Aye.
Director Hernandez.
Aye.
Director Cordova,
Aye.
Director Infante,
Aye.
and Chair Patino.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
The next item is the director's report. Ms.
Right.
Arlen Janae.
Thank you. I have a couple items I'd like to bring to your attention. I'll start off up in Sacramento. Today's a big day before the legislature. If they want to continue to get paid, they need to get their budget submitted to the governor. There's been two bills, AB 101 and SB 101, both identical. I just wanted to bring to your attention because there are a couple items that are included in there which are good for local incentive programs. In the governor's proposed budget and the May revise, there was no inclusion of the farmer grant program. And that was put back in place by the legislators' proposal that hopefully will be forwarded on by the close of business today, bringing in $100 million for incentive programs related to farmer. And you'll hear a little bit more when Mike McKay has an opportunity to give a presentation to you on our grant program, how important that program is for our local agricultural community. The second item that was included in the Senate and Assembly bill was to increase the amount of funds that go to our community air protection program. We call that AB 617. We have secured funding for the implementation of the requirements that we are responsible for, as well as incentive programs that go out to the low-income regions of our county. And within the legislators' proposed budget, there's been an increase in funding for those programs as well. So that's positive. And then the last item that was included in the legislative proposal is $2 million for prescribed fire grant program. And Liz will be talking a little bit about wildfire smoke response, and for us, all of the work that we do to support prescribed burns. This is a funding mechanism that we have available. So hopefully our efforts will continue. And I know we're just now really getting to the heart of negotiations between the legislature and the governor. But it's good news. It's nice to see that the efforts that we've been working with CAPCOA, their lobbyist up in Sacramento, we've been able to make some headway. So that's positive on the air quality front. As also, I wanted to bring to your attention AB 953. This is the statewide speed reduction and sustainable shipping program. It's moved on to the Senate. It will be before the Senate Natural Resource and Water Committee. And tentatively, that should be heard by June 27th is the anticipated week. It will likely go to that committee. So far, there's been no opposition. Let's knock on wood and hope that that continues. This has been co-sponsored by Greg Hart of our area. And I know there's a wide range of co-authors that are behind this one. So we're excited it continues to move forward, and we'll keep you posted, hopefully when it's signed. The last effort I wanted to talk about is associated with Platform Holly's decommissioning efforts. PRC 421, also known as the Beachfront Lease, was an oil production facility that dated back to the 1920s when it started. Most recently, this facility consisted of 2 oil piers. It was owned and operated by Veneco LLC. When they declared bankruptcy back in 2017, the facility went back to the state of California, and State Lands Commission has been working to permanently plug and abandon the wells and decommissioning of the facility. Last week, the commission and other state and local partners celebrated a successful completion of the project, including removal of the oil and caissons and restoration of the site to its natural state. Throughout this process, the commission, their contractors have been working with the Air District to ensure that the project complied with all of our rules and regulations to reduce impacts to the surrounding community. We have now canceled the permit for PRC 421 and soon begin processing emission reduction credits that are associated with this shutdown. State Lands has also hired a firm to complete an EIR for the decommissioning of Platform Holly, and we'll stay involved in this process. The EIR is expected to be complete by mid-2025. So we've been talking a lot about the change in oil and gas platforms in particular in our area, and this is the first one that's actually moving forward in the EIR for decommissioning phase. As far as Elwood Onshore Facility, EOF, it's also in transition. State Lands Commission just completed a transfer of this facility back to Veneco Bankruptcy Trust. The trust held onto ownership of EOF through the Veneco bankruptcy proceedings. And since now the Platform Holly has been plugged, they know State Lands Commission no longer needs EOF. So it's been transferred back to the trust. And we've been working with the state and local regulatory agencies to ensure an orderly transfer of this facility. And we hope to work with the trustee to ensure that they comply with our regulations as they go through the decommissioning of that facility as well. That's the wrap up of my comments today.
Thank you, Miss Arlen Janae. Any comments,
Yeah,
questions?
Yes,
Oh,
question. Chair
Supervisor Nelson?
Yeah, curious about those local emissions credits. Those would be considered local emissions credits?
Mhm.
Okay. And is it a significant amount of credits?
You know, I'm not quite sure the volume of ERCs that will be generated by the closure. That would be something I'd have to get back to you on.
I'd be really curious about that. I mean, it's always been one of the things that there's a lack of local credits available for various projects. So if there's a glut of them, that'd be good information for, I think, this board to know and the community
Okay.
at large.
I could report back on that our next board meeting.
Thank you.
Okay.
Do we have any public comment on the director's report?
Chair Patino, we did not receive any public comment on the
Okay.
director's report.
Any other questions from the dais? Santa Barbara, any questions down there?
This is Joan Hartman. I just had, that reminded me, Aaron, of, I think APCD is doing a report on oil, and just wondered if you could give us a status on that.
Yeah, shoot, I don't have my calendar in front of me. I believe Caitlin McNally, who has been involved in the oil and gas presentation to the Board of Supervisors over the past 2 years, will be heading up that presentation. And she will be reaching out to other agencies that we work with as it relates to oil and gas activities to provide a presentation back to your board. I believe it's August, our next board meeting that we're targeting.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments from Santa Barbara? Okay, hearing none. Now is the time for the members of the public to speak on items that are not on the agenda. Did we receive any requests to speak on items not on the agenda?
Chair Patino, we did not receive any requests to speak on items not on the agenda.
Thank you. The next item is discussion item G1. Will the clerk please read the item into the record?
Discussion item G1, overview of voluntary cleaner grant and incentive programs. Receive and file a presentation on the status of the district's cleaner grant and incentive programs.
Thank you.
All right, today we have a presentation from Mike McKay, Air Quality Specialist, who works out of the APCD Santa Maria office. Overall, we got great presentations, 2 great presentations for you today. Every year we provide an overview on the voluntary emission reduction grant program. And as you're going to hear in a few seconds, it's been quite a big year for us. So Mike, if you would please.
So it's up right here. Okay, perfect. All right, good afternoon, Chair Patino, members of the board. Today I'll be giving you a brief presentation on the district's grant and incentive programs. I'll be going over current fiscal year funding, locations and types of projects, and then the expected funding for next fiscal year. So this slide represents the data from table 1. This is not the correct page. So over the last 35 years, the district has distributed over $55 million in state and local funds for voluntary grant and incentive projects throughout Santa Barbara County. The mitigation funds in dark blue were collected from businesses that were required to mitigate excess emissions, and most of those funds were expended in the 1990s. The DMV funds you see and CARB funds in green have been our primary source of funding since that time. The intended use of these funds is to assist in the replacement of diesel fuel equipment that is not required to be replaced by regulation. So diesel exhaust being a toxic air contaminant, this is an important program, and a lot of this equipment has been in service for decades, many of which have engines with no emission controls. So our program continues to incentivize new, cleaner technology, which directly benefits businesses and community members, as well as community health. This slide represents the data from table 1 of your board letter, and it shows the funding sources we use for our program this fiscal year. Utilizing each of these sources, we were able to fund a wide variety of projects throughout the county. And one of the challenges we face are the types of projects we're allowed to fund. For example, Carl Moyer funds can be used for any number of project types from marine to infrastructure to agriculture, while farmer funds are specifically for agriculture projects. As for our 2022 program, we had a 38-day application window, and during that time, we received 95 applications. Half of those were first-time applicants. And this is a 23% increase over last year where we received 78 applications. And this increase, it's a testament to our outreach efforts, and we hope that number continues to grow as the program becomes more publicized. This type of program can also have some challenges regarding outreach. In my conversations with a lot of the grantees, some of them have expressed being tight-lipped and not wanting to share about the program because the more people apply, the less money there is to go around. So it does make sense in that regard. So due to that, we rely on multiple outreach avenues like social media, presentations like this, news releases. You know, for example, I have a good relationship with all of our local off-road dealers, and I know that they sell our program to their clients on a daily basis. So each box on this slide indicates a step in the process of assisting applicants to qualify for and receive funding for their project. In your board letter under fiscal impacts, we do mention that staff labor costs typically exceed the administration money provided by CARB to run these programs. And to clarify that a little bit, the first item here shows a complete application being submitted. That's done less than 10% of the time. So right out of the gate, there's a lot of work with applicants to make sure we get all the information that we need and that CARB requires us to have for something to be approved. You know, for example, marine applicants, they're required to submit the most recent 24 months of fuel usage and hour meter records. And this is a lot of stuff that they don't keep on hand. So sometimes it takes some time for them to find that information. Not to mention, most of them are sole proprietors, so they don't have staff working on these things. They have to take time out of their day to find the records. So it's a lot of work. The information that we require is pretty straightforward to us, but it's likely something that first-time applicants have never thought much about. So beyond the complete application, an offer being made and accepted, and then a successful project being created, we have multiple inspections for each project as well. So the pre-inspection confirms that the location and operability of the existing equipment matches what's on the application. Then we have the post-inspection to confirm that the new equipment matches what they're wanting to buy. Then we have a salvage inspection, which confirms the old equipment is properly destroyed. And then we have audit inspections and annual reports throughout the life of a project. And these projects typically average about 3 years in project length. Each project type has its own nuances, and our goal is to make sure everyone that applies receives the same customer service experience. So on a later slide, I'll share some testimonials from previous grantees that will hopefully support that goal. So for our 2022 program, we're funding 62 projects, 37 of which are off-road projects. And then as you can see here, there's 16 infrastructure, 4 marine, 2 school buses, and 1 on-road project. The top left is a marine project in the Santa Barbara Harbor, where we helped fund the replacement of 2 285 horsepower engines with 2 brand new 285 horsepower Tier 3 marine engines, which is the cleanest commercially available marine engine at this time. The top right's an existing diesel powered school bus in Orchid, and that will soon be replaced with a 2023 electric school bus. In the bottom left, we have a diesel fueled transit bus for the Santa Barbara Metro Transit District, and that soon will be replaced with a brand new electric transit bus. In the bottom right, we have an infrastructure project at the San Ynez Band of Chumash Indians. This year, we were able to fund 16 infrastructure projects with 132 charging ports and 112 of them being level 2 and 20 level 3. So infrastructure projects continue to be very popular, obviously, in the current climate. So we work with all applicants to help them create a successful project in our county, including infrastructure. Excuse me. Moving on to our off-road category. This project type is historically our most popular, and this fiscal year was no different, with over 50% of our grant funds obligated to off-road projects. This equipment is typically high usage, which means they tend to have the greatest emission benefits with engines with no emission controls when they're replaced with a Tier 4 final engine, which is the cleanest diesel engine available at this time. So this year we're funding 37 projects with over $2.3 million in funding, while removing over 260 tons of emissions throughout the life of those projects. You know, most of these, like I mentioned earlier, have a 3-year project life, and that emission reduction number is tied directly to those 3 years. So that number is actually much higher over the long run, because once the project ends, we're not accounting for those emission reductions. The images on the left here are the pre-inspections for DiBernardi Brothers and Freshway Farms. Both of these are in the Santa Maria Valley, and then the pictures on the right are post-inspection photos of the new equipment that they received for their projects. So as noted in an earlier slide, we typically perform 4 separate inspections during each project life. A pre-inspection, a post-inspection, a salvage inspection, and then an audit inspection. And they can vary in both difficulty and length. And the audit inspection is the only one that's not required for every project. So we can get that video started, please, for the next slide. And this is a short video, about 1 minute, showing what the salvage inspection entails. And it's the best part of my presentation, so.
While that's going up, I have a question.
That confirmed.
Madam Chair, I was just going to ask that question. So, yeah, thank you. So what's the percentage of what the cost of the new one that we're covering?
Well, we're allowed to cover up to 80% of the new cost of a tractor, and then we have caps at $250,000 we use for zero emission equipment, and we go to $150,000 for diesel to diesel equipment. So if the tractor costs $500,000, like some of these larger ones cost, we're only able to cover up to $150,000. So the percentage is much lower. Some of the smaller tractors that are 80 grand, we can cover up to 60 or whatever that percentage works out to be. So. CARB does require us to document that salvage inspection video with pictures and videos. So while each project has certain rules for destruction, the general rule is that the engines and frames are rendered unusable on the old equipment. So our off-road projects, as you can tell by looking at that video, they're not required to, you can't tell by looking at that video, sorry, they're not required to dispose of tires and counterweights, the cabs, auxiliary equipment like engine equipment like alternators or radiators or anything like that. So a lot of times tractors, the owners will deliver the tractor with just the frame and the engine, and other times where they have no use for the tires on other equipment, they'll just bring the whole tractor into the salvage yard and just dispose of it all right there. So, and a successful salvage inspection must be completed before we're able to issue any reimbursement for a project. So that's usually the last part of the confirmation process. And there we go. So here we have a project that's a first of its kind for our district. Not only were we able to help fund the tractor replacement, but the applicant also received funding that assisted in the installation of a DC fast charger, where the solar carport features an island mode that can provide energy to the tractor battery pack when the grid power is offline. So this brand of tractor in particular has an autonomous option. So once the operator records the desired route and speeds, the equipment can actually perform tasks like spraying pesticides without anyone having to be on the tractor. This project's not yet fully operational. It's very close. You can tell by the pictures. So we're excited to follow up with the grantee once everything gets going and see the improvements to their process. So here we have a map of the county showing all grant project locations. So within our county, there are the 3 pink areas, which represent disadvantaged communities, 2 census tracts in the Guadalupe and Goleta areas, and then there's a small one there in the middle for the San Ynez Band of Chumash Indians Reservation. And the yellow bands around these just represent a half-mile distance from those disadvantaged communities. So the upper right portion of that image is where a few county lines come together. So that pink up there is just outside of our jurisdiction. So as you can see, the project type and locations are well dispersed throughout the county. And while the Santa Maria Valley will always have the largest number of off-road projects, our goal is to try to provide funds for applicants throughout our entire district. And I think this map's a good representation of us trying to make that goal happen. So before I get started on this slide, in front of you should have this flyer here. It was created to help promote our LEAF program. And it's also available online at the web chat at the web address at the bottom of the slide. And if you'd like extra cards to promote the program through your office, just let me know and I can get you guys what you need. So despite not having any funding last fiscal year for our LEAF program, we did continue to receive a lot of interest. So thankfully, year 24, the Carl Moyer State Reserve Program was approved by CARB to create and help fund projects throughout the state to continue the goal of replacing gas-powered landscape equipment with zero emission technology. We were able to receive a substantial amount of money for our program, and just a couple of weeks ago, on June 5th, actually, our program opened, and it will remain open until all those funds are expended. And we have already received numerous applications for a wide variety of projects, from leaf blowers up to the big ride-on mowers. And the interest in the program has been great, and we expect all funds to be fully liquidated well before that June 30th, 26 deadline shown there on the slide. On July 19th, we're hosting a commercial electric landscape equipment demo day from 10 to 2 at San Marcos High School in Santa Barbara. And the information for this demo day is also on our website. So anyone interested should please contact us by email or visit the link at the bottom of the slide there. And we're currently working on scheduling a demonstration day in North County for sometime in the fall.
Mr. McKay, let me ask you
Yes.
a question. Down here, it says businesses, schools, public agencies, and we're looking at eligible organizations. What about privately owned businesses?
a privately owned business that does their own landscape, I believe they are also eligible for this program,
Oh, okay, thank you.
as long as they're doing their own landscape.
Thank you.
So moving ahead to next fiscal year, this slide represents data from table 3 of your board letter. And it shows the proposed funding amounts we plan to utilize for our program this upcoming fiscal year. And while funding for our 22 program was our largest amount to date, the 23 program funding isn't quite that amount, but we're still looking at over almost 50% of the district's budget for this next fiscal year. And we do look forward to being able to continue funding multiple project types throughout the county. As you can see here, and to follow up on what Aaron had mentioned earlier, there's no state budgeted farmer funds for our 23 program. So depending on that soon to be budget decision, we could be looking at a substantial boost to our available funds. And we'll keep you apprised of any changes in funding as we move closer to the program launch. So this slide represents a few of the many testimonials that we've received for our program. They're great examples of how our grant incentive programs are a positive impact to both business and personal lives within our community. One highlight I want to point out is a recent grantee stating that we've successfully received 8 grants from various state and county entities, and the APCD grants have been by far the most intuitive to apply for. So that's a great testament to our program and our application process. As I mentioned earlier, we've had many first-time applicants this year, and it's important to make sure applying for our program is easy and the requirements are clear. So our outreach list continues to grow and contains over 1,100 contacts. And on the last slide, I have contact info for those that like to be added to the list or just general questions regarding the program. Our 23 program is set to open on July 24th, and we're going to be using a 40-day application window where the final day to apply will be September 1st. This window will be enough time for us to work with applicants that need assistance in submitting a complete application within that time frame. And as mentioned earlier, we increased the maximum grant amount of $150,000 to $250,000, and that $250,000 is for zero emission projects. And this increase helped incentivize applicants with large and expensive projects, especially those that fall under the zero emission or near zero emission technology. And we look forward to receiving applications that have the potential to meet criteria for that maximum. We've already begun notifying our outreach list with details on the upcoming program, and we're currently working on preparing the 2023 applications and web pages with updated information. And here's my contact info along with email addresses to be added to our grant outreach list. And if anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to try to answer them.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? Any from Santa Barbara?
I'll just say, Madam Chair, that just because we haven't had a lot of questions doesn't mean that we don't think this is great programming. I think it's really needed both for cleaner air and obviously for our electrification goals, which we most of us just saw a preview of that at SPCAG a couple hours ago. So these incentives are needed and useful.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Supervisor Nelson?
Yes, thank you, Chair Patino. Understand how you do the project ranking in the zero and near zero, and how does that factor in, especially with the agricultural equipment? I know that there's that electric tractor, but that's still in its infancy and is really not practical for most of the agriculture that happens in the Santa Barbara County. How are you guys able to keep those still prioritized? I mean, it's obviously a significant program for the agricultural industry.
Yeah, the zero emission side on the ag in the ag world is not quite at a point where it's impacting all of the other applications. We only received a couple applications for zero emission on the ag side, and we do look at location to the low income and disadvantaged communities. That's our priority, and then we work on cost effectiveness. The emission reductions that the tractor has. If it's a 2005 80 horsepower tractor that only operates 800 hours a year, the emission reductions aren't going to be that high, and that's going to fall lower. If they wanted to go to an electric tractor, then we'll work on prioritizing that, moving it up the list a little bit. And I think one of the things that I want to point out too is we were able to fund up to 80% of the cost of a project up to $150,000. But what we've been doing to try to offer applicants money to incentivize the replacement of their equipment is that we are across the board lowering that maximum to be able to make offers to more applicants. So we were actually able to fund all applicants that applied this year, or at least make offers to, because of that reduction. That added another 10 or 15 projects. So that, with the electrification and that impacting people wanting to get new diesel tractors, we're actually able to extend a little bit by lessening it, but still making it enough to incentivize them to fund their project.
And when we do these reduction projects, do those end up with credits? It's a wash at that point?
Yeah, they're not required to be replaced. There's no credits. There's nothing. It's just straight across the board.
Okay. Other question was about the demo day. So are we inviting dealers that are in the area to be attending?
Yeah. It's, Alex, you might have more information on exactly who will be present, but it's going to be a lot of different manufacturers there, as well as an organization that provides courses, like a workshop on how to replace your landscape equipment fleet and best practices that they've observed in other areas that are already doing this. But we're wanting to have a large number of participants to show their wares and to allow folks to get hands-on experience operating this equipment before they have to make the decision to buy it. And we're
Great.
going to do the same up in North County.
Okay, yeah, I know we have a local business that's got their own dealership now on this and has been pushing it pretty heavily. So they've had already 2 demo days up
Yep.
here and hope that they could participate in some of the APCD demo days as well.
Definitely. And we've been trying to get the word out when they have their demo days. And I've already seen they have been doing the same for us and using their social network outlook as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there any public comment?
Chair Patino, we did not receive any public comment on this item.
Thank you. The next item is discussion item G2. Will the clerk please read the item into the record?
Discussion item G2, wildfire smoke preparedness. Receive and file a presentation on wildfire smoke preparedness.
We thought we were going to get a jump on this before we've heard any word about wildfire smoke in the area. But I think, what was it, 1 or 2 weeks ago, Canada wasn't working in United States' favor, and it was top of my news feed, I know. So today Liz is going to be able to give us a presentation talking about what we all need to do to be aware and prepared for wildfire smoke, because unfortunately the predictions have, I was thinking because we had so much rain, maybe we won't see so much wildfire, but in a recent CAPCOA meeting where we were receiving some forecast conditions, our wildfire conditions in California are likely still to occur. We have a lot of weakened feedstock out there in the forest. It's just likely to happen later in the summer.
Thank you, Erin and board members. I'm Liz Bantalon, the district's public information officer. And like Erin said, unfortunately, this is a bit timely of a presentation. The wildfires burning in Canada are shown on the EPA fire and smoke map on this slide. I took this a couple days ago. As you can see, that smoke is not staying confined to Canada or even North America. Our district has even joined others in California in working with government agencies on the East Coast who are not as familiar with navigating the public response to wildfire smoke. And also last week, you may have seen that the Santa Barbara County Fire Department declared the start of high fire season. So this June gloom won't last forever, and now is a great time to get ready. So I have 9 slides today for you and going to discuss the following: the various roles that our agency plays with wildfire smoke, how we prepare for wildfire season and work with our partners, our air quality data and resources that we have on our website, important points to consider about smoke and health, some information about our air quality alerts process working with county public health, some health protective actions that people can take now to prepare for wildfire season, and also some actions they can take when we're in the thick of an incident, and then some ways that the district is going to ramp up our outreach about this over the summer. And photos throughout this presentation have been taken by staff of various fires in our county. So with wildfire smoke incidents, as you can imagine, our agency is all hands on deck. There is just an onslaught of public information needs, monitoring needs, and interagency needs when that happens. During wildfire season, we keep a very close eye on conditions, not just, notifications about fires that may start in our county, but also keeping tabs on fires that are happening elsewhere in the event that smoke travels to our area, which we have seen happen in the last few years. When we talk about wildfire smoke preparedness, it's not just working with the public to help them get ready, but also making sure that we're prepared too. One of the ways that we have done that for the last several years is creating these plug and play templates with county public health so that our air quality alerts can go out really quickly. This allows us to really coordinate well with county public health in a timely fashion. Wildfire smoke is also about our partnerships, obviously with county public health, but also with the local media, schools, and other county and city partners that help us share information accurately to as broad an audience as possible. During a wildfire smoke event, we issue our air quality alerts via email, text message, social media, and on our website. In terms of monitoring, our monitoring staff are ready to deploy portable air quality monitors in any area that smoke is affecting where we may not have a permanent monitoring station. And our forecasting team can work closely with federal air resource advisors that can get deployed during larger incidents and make sure that we're on the same page about forecasts. And last but not least, a key component of our outreach, of course, focuses on those health protective actions. So just for a refresher about our air quality monitoring network, we collect particulate matter readings in many locations throughout the county, as you can see on the list on this slide. We've also installed more than 40 low-cost purple air sensors throughout the county for more neighborhood level information. And we, of course, have portable air quality monitors that we can deploy if needed. And just as a reminder, smoke and ash are PM 2.5 and PM 10, and those are the pollutants most concerning during a wildfire. So all of that data from our monitoring network is fed directly to our website. On this slide, the link that is at the top, that is sort of our one-stop shop for air quality information on our website. If you go there, and by the way, that page is also in Spanish too. So if you go to that page, you can find 24/7 current conditions. Every pollutant measured at every station in the county has 24 hours worth of rolling data on that page. That page also shows our air quality forecasts. We provide those in 3-day increments, but during a wildfire, they can be updated more frequently because the conditions are so dynamic. Also on that page, we link to the EPA fire and smoke map, which was a screenshot on the first slide. That fire and smoke map is now also available in Spanish, which is a great development. That tool combines data from permanent monitoring stations and purple air sensors and gives a really robust snapshot of air quality. And it also shows a smoke plume that's a great visual aid. On this slide, I've also included a screenshot of the district's splash page. We implemented this a couple of years ago. This splash page takes over our existing homepage so that all the wildfire smoke information is right on our homepage when people go there. And I want to say too that all these tools that I mentioned share air quality data in the same way. They all use the air quality index. There's a graphic on this slide. I know it's hard to read the text, but you can see the colors. Green means good, red means unhealthy, etc. The consistency with the colors makes it really easy for people to become familiar with air quality conditions and know when they need to take actions to protect themselves. I think we've shared this graphic with you before. I like it for the perspective that it gives. It shows the very small size of these particles in relation to a single strand of human hair. So if you look at a strand of your hair and then imagine those particles wrapped around it, gives you a really good sense of how small that they are. And because they're so small, they can enter our lungs and our bloodstream and cause some health problems. And sensitive groups like the ones listed here are the ones that are going to be most vulnerable to those health problems. So a little bit about our air quality alerts. We issue these with public health, like I said, and our goal is to get these out before the air quality gets to an unhealthy level. Sometimes those levels happen suddenly, but there's often a trend that we can see that marches toward that level. That can depend on whether it's a fire that starts locally or one that's burning hundreds of miles away that causes smoke transport. So this graphic here on this slide in the green line is PM 2.5 data from 3 months in 2020 when we experienced a lot of smoke transport from fires burning in other places. And the blue line shows average readings of PM 2.5 between 2016 and 2019. The red circles here indicate when our air quality alerts were issued. And just for reference, the y-axis, the number 35 is an unhealthy level. So you can see that those alerts were issued either at or before we reached that unhealthy level. These alerts are issued in English and Spanish to the media and other partners, and any member of the public who wants to receive them can also sign up to do so. We can email them and or text them these notifications. Tech subscribers can choose their geographic area. So if they live in one area of the county and work in another, they can sign up to receive notifications for both areas. We currently have about 3,000 subscribers between both email and text. So obviously we'd love to grow that number. So anyone can sign up at the link at the bottom of this slide. So our main message to the public when there's wildfire smoke is pretty simple. The best protection is to stay inside as much as you can. That really highlights the importance of ensuring that indoor air quality is safe. And the best way to do that is to create what we call a clean air room at home. You've heard us mention that phrase before. A clean air room is a dedicated room in your home that will serve as a space for clean indoor air. That means you have the windows and doors shut, and that ideally you would use a high efficiency particulate air monitor, otherwise known as a HEPA air purifier, to keep your indoor air clean. Another key point that we stress during wildfires is to encourage people to check the air quality. We have all these air quality tools and they're a great resource to check the conditions. It's a good way to see whether things are getting better or getting worse. And one point on that too, we want people to use the AQI and all these tools, but we also encourage them to use their eyes and their nose. If they are seeing or smelling smoke, it could be affecting them and they should pay attention. And then the last point on this, on N95 masks, we get asked about these a lot. These are a great resource for people who have to work outside. They are not an excuse to go outside if you don't need to be outdoors. So don't think you can put on an N95 mask and go ride your bike. That's probably not a great idea if you don't have to. And obviously they only work if they're worn correctly. Lastly, I want to share some more about our plans to help the community get prepared for fire season. Key outreach will focus on the ease and the importance of creating that clean air room, whether it's an air purifier that you go buy or one that you make on your own using a few simple materials. We have bilingual infographics about clean air rooms that we've shared with your board previously. And new for this year, we have short instructional videos in English and Spanish. I'm going to play one at the end. We've also had some initial discussions with 3 entities in our county who have received grant funds from CAPCOA. These grant funds that they received are to get clean air centers up and running throughout the county. The Isla Vista Community Services District, the City of Lompoc, and the City of Santa Barbara all received funds. So they all have different timelines and slightly different projects, but we're going to be an outreach partner with them for all of these projects. Another big push for us is going to be encouraging more people to sign up for our alerts. Some key partners are going to be the County Ag Commissioner's Office, ensuring that we reach the farm working community. County OEM, by encouraging them to help us share information about our alerts. And we're really excited. We're going to be working with CARB on a bilingual messaging project in North County. We also have provided an AQI activity chart for schools to help them make decisions when smoke events are affecting our area. You each should have a printed copy of that chart at your seat. That's a chart that various air districts in the state have worked on putting together and providing to schools in their jurisdictions. And I just want to make a note too that our district would be happy if anyone wants to have any content for their social media or newsletters, we can provide bilingual content for you to use. And with that, I think we're ready to show the video and then I can take any questions you may have. It's a slight delay, so.
This video will provide tips for choosing and using an air purifier.
I don't know why it's not.
First off, what type of air filter device do you need? A HEPA, high-efficiency particulate air purifier, can reduce harmful particulate matter indoors by 90%, helping keep indoor air clean during wildfire smoke events. Make sure to choose one that's right for you. These devices come in various makes and models for different room sizes. A HEPA purifier for an average-sized bedroom starts at approximately $75. You can purchase one at a hardware store or an online retailer.
I can.
It's important to use the purifier in a...
All right, I have a question while we're figuring this out. So
Supervisor Lavin.
thank you. So like if you look at Santa Maria's AQI today, it's like 30 and the whole county is probably around 30. Does that, how come, like when we go to the website, you click on that, the only pollutant it shows will be ozone? Is there a place where it'll show PM or any of those things?
Yes.
This video will provide tips for choosing.
We do it afterwards. All right. Again?
Yeah.
I deal with this all the time.
Do you want me to answer that question while we're
I
waiting?
guess, yeah.
So on our homepage, we have a preview that shows the current highest pollutant at each hour. So if it happens to be ozone, that's the highest, that's what it's going to show. But if you click for more information, you can find all of the pollutants, 24
Okay.
hours worth for all of them.
Okay, and then in, let's say North County, if it's not wildfire, is it the next thing just wind and moving
For
dust particles?
particulate matter, yes, that can cause elevated levels in North County.
This video will provide tips for choosing and using an air purifier. First off, what type of air filter device do you need? A HEPA, high-efficiency particulate air purifier, can reduce harmful particulate matter indoors by 90%, helping keep indoor air clean during wildfire smoke events. Make sure to choose one that's right for you. These devices come in various makes and models for different room sizes. A HEPA purifier for an average-sized bedroom starts at approximately $75. You can purchase one at a hardware store or an online retailer. It's important to use the purifier in a room where you spend a lot of time, like a bedroom. When using the purifier, close and seal windows and doors to prevent smoke from coming inside. This is often referred to as creating a clean air room in your home. It's important to replace the filter as directed by the owner's manual. And make sure to replace the filter more frequently during wildfire season. For more information from Santa Barbara County Air Pollution Control District, visit ourair.org.
Do you want to finish asking your question? You've got it? Okay. Okay, any other further discussion from the board? What about
Yes.
Santa Barbara?
Chair Patino, I have a question. This is
Yes.
Director Capps. Thanks so much for the presentation. I just particularly noted the communication with schools, and I wondered if you could talk a little bit, like, does an actual notification come out? Or are you just making these recommendations of air quality available? Or what do you know what actually occurs in terms of communication with schools when there's incidences of poor air quality?
Sure. Thank you, Director Capps. So in terms of that chart that you were provided, we have shared that chart with school districts in the past, and we'll do follow-up outreach with them just so that they know about that chart and how to interpret it. And during an incident, we have worked really hard to make sure that principals or superintendents are on our contact list for air quality alerts so that they're notified. And if a fire smoke event is affecting a particular area really heavily, we'll also reach out, separately, additionally to a school or school district so that they're aware of resources that we have and how we can provide guidance to them.
That's great. Yeah, I would just I think as direct as possible, just not to assume that the principal would be cognizant of checking the quality levels, et cetera. So that's great. The more proactive, the better. And obviously the county CEO, education officer is helpful. So thank you for that.
Any other discussion from the board?
Yes, this is Director Perotti.
Director Perotti?
And my question, and maybe it should have gone for the item before this, but I'm going to ask it now, is about the air purifiers. And I know that last year there was such a successful program for Guadalupe, and there had been mention of maybe continuing that into Old Town, Goleta, where they've identified the need. Is that something that we're looking into, or where's the process? What's going on with that?
We are definitely looking for more funding opportunities. to expand that program beyond the successful project that we were able to carry out in Guadalupe. Nothing has been identified yet. Of all the funding sources that were identified by Mr. McKay, none of those are eligible funding for extended air purifier program. So as we go into our new budget that was recently approved in our administrative agenda, you might have noticed that there weren't a lot of clean air funds that were available. In this proposed budget, we didn't have a lot of excess. As we close out the year, we may find that we have additional funds, and if so, that's some action that we would like to bring back to your board if we need to move some of those funds, additional NOV funds, for example, from our general operations to our clean air fund, but that would require additional board action that would be brought to your attention at a later time. But currently, we don't have any money earmarked in next year's budget for expanding that project.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments, questions from the board? Okay, hearing none. Any public comment?
Chair Patino, we did not receive any public comment
Thank
on
you.
this item.
So this is a receive and file item, so no vote is necessary. Thank you very much. This meeting will be rebroadcast on Sunday, June 18th, 2023 at 5 p.m. on the County of Santa Barbara TV channel 20. And at this point, the Santa Barbara County Air Pollution Control District Board is adjourned till 1 o'clock on August 17th, 2023.